Hello guys, welcome to my channel. The Less is More. For last 3 days we are discussing an editorial from the Hindu and the Indian Express. But today I will explain a new concept, that is explained page in the Indian Express newspaper. Actually, this page explains about any particular topic and its implication. So today the topic is El Nino and the monsoon. This is the topic of geography, but the implications this topic have this topic has are more wider. So the author is Harish Damodaran, and let's start and understand this concept of El Nino and the monsoon. From 2019 to 22, India had 4 consecutive years of good southwest monsoon and overall rainfall. Right? 19, 20, 21 and 22. 4 consecutive years. We have India has received a good southwest monsoon and overall rainfall. So that the can grow at a agriculture can grow at a good rate, right? That is around 4% and something. In these 4 years, the country as a whole received an average area weighted rainfall of 1268 mm annually and 933 mm over the 4 month southwest monsoon season. So annually means received during uh, winter as well, right? In North India mostly. So this number these numbers are not meant to be remembered or memorized. It is just for your knowledge. Okay. By contrast, the preceding 5 years from 14 to 18 registered an average annual rainfall of just 1072 mm and 812 mm during the southwest monsoon. So in last 4 years 1268, but preceding 5 years 14 to 18 it received just 1072, right? So almost 200 mm less than the previous one. Moving ahead, the surplus precipitation more than the normal or historic long period annual average of 1160 during the last 4 years has helped deliver higher agricultural growth relative to the previous period that recorded poor rainfall in 14, 15 and 18 out of the 5 years. So in the last some years there was a surplus precipitation, right, which is more than the normal average or historical long period annual average of 1160. This 1160 is the annual average of some of the last period, but in these years there was a surplus precipitation than the normal average, right? Moving ahead, according to national accounts data, the farm sector has grown by an average of 4.3% per year from 1922 22-23 as against 3.2% from 14-15 to 18-19. So in total, last 8 years, the last 4 years has received surplus precipitation, and it has led to farm sector grown by average of 4.3%, which is more than the preceding 4 years, that is 14 to 18, 5 years, that is 3.2%, right? Agriculture is grown by that percent. Moving ahead, the La Nina bounty. The bountiful rainfall over the last 4 years owes significantly to La Nina, an atmospheric wind and sea surface temperature variability phenomenon that occurs over the equatorial Pacific but impacts weather worldwide. So, this bountiful rainfall in the last 4 years is due to the La Nina, and that is an atmospheric wind and sea surface temperature variability phenomenon which usually occurs over the equatorial Pacific, but the implications it has is worldwide. Going ahead, La Nina basically refers to an what abnormal cooling of the central and eastern Pacific Ocean waters of the coast of Ecuador and Peru. So this is the definition of La Nina, which can which can be used in the introduction in the GS1 paper of the geography. If the question is that the what is differentiate between El Nino and La Nina and its implications on the India socio-economic implications, right? So it is refers to an abnormal cooling of the central and eastern Pacific ocean waters of the coast of Ecuador and Peru. Again, I am repeating again, an abnormal cooling of the central and eastern Pacific ocean waters of the coast of Ecuador and Peru, right? Such cooling, that is SST, that is sea surface temperature, falling 0.5 degrees Celsius or more below a 30-year average for at least 5 successive 3 months period, right? This is the technical definition of La Nina. I am not going into it. So such cooling is a result of strong trade winds and blowing west along the equator, taking warm water from South America towards Asia. So such cooling is due to strong trade winds blowing from west to blowing west along the equator, taking warm water from South America towards Asia. So it is like this. This is Asia. This is America. So winds are going this way, taking warm water from here to here. So the warming of the western equatorial Pacific then leads to increased evaporation and concentrated cloud formation activity around that region, whose effects may percolate to India as well. So this warming of the western equatorial Pacific leads to what? Increased evaporation and concentration. Increased evaporation and concentrated cloud formation activity around that region. Moving ahead, the latest La Nina event was one of the longest ever. The latest La Nina event was one of the longest, lasting from July-September 2020 to December 22-23. It brought copious rain to India. So it brought much more rain to India, just as the two previous strong La Ninas in 2007-8 and 10-11, followed by a moderate one in 11 and 12 had done. So the last La Nina was one of the strongest and the longest, equals to the two previous strong La Nina in 2007 and 2010. Okay. The most recent Oceanic Niño Index, that is ONI value, a 3-month running average SST deviation from the normal in the east central equatorial Pacific was minus 0.5 degrees Celsius for January-March 2023. So this is new index, Oceanic Niño Index. What is that? A 3-month running average. 3-month running average of SST, that is sea surface temperature, deviation from the normal. How it is deviated from its normal range, that is Oceanic Niño Index, was how much? 0.4 degrees Celsius minus in 3 years. Since La Nina is characterized since La Nina is characterized by negative ONI exceeding or equal to minus zero point 0.5 degrees, it means that the so-called ENSO, El Nino Southern Ocean, has entered a neutral phase. So, if there would be a La Nina, then it is characterized by negative ONI, that is exceeding or equal to more than minus 0.5 degree. It means that right now it is minus 0.4, so it can be said that the so-called ENSO means this whole system, El Nino Southern Ocean, has entered a neutral phase. Right. The El Nino threat. While La Nina is associated with good rainfall in India, this is not the case with El Nino, the opposite warm phase of ENSO. What is El Nino? The opposite warm phase of ENSO. During the El Nino, the trade winds weaken or even reverse. So, what was the position of trade wind in La Nina? It was America to Asia. But now in El Nino, it is Asia to America. Right. Instead of blowing from the east, that is South America, to west, they could turn into westerlies. As the winds blow from west to east, they cause masses of warm water to move into the central and eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. So these westerlies would go towards east from the south, and these masses of warm water move into the eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean off the coast of Ecuador and Peru. Right. The rise in SST, sea surface temperature. So warm water is going to the Ecuador, the coast of Ecuador. So sea surface temperature would definitely rise, lead to what? Increased rainfall along western Latin America, Caribbean and the US Gulf Coast, while depriving whom? Southeast Asia, Australia and India of convective currents. These convective currents leads to precipitation. But during El Nino, these three regions are deprived of these convective currents. The ENSO cycle, as already pointed out, is currently in the neutral state. According to the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's most recent update, what ENSO neutral conditions are likely to persist through the northern hemisphere early summer of 2023. So it will persist through northern hemisphere till early summer of 2023. In other words, at least till June. So this neutral phase would remain till June. However, a transition to EI Nino is favored by July or September 2023. So this transition from neutral phase to El Nino phase would be in July to September 2023, with its chances increasing through the fall. With its chances increasing through the fall in September and November. So chances would increase as the monsoon arrives. The Australian Bureau of Meteorology, this is the meteorological department of Australia, has forecast a 50% chance that El Nino may develop later in 2023. This is about twice the normal likelihood. The agency said in its March 28 report, adding that warmer than average SSTs have already emerged in parts of the eastern tropical Pacific in recent weeks. So, Australian Bureau says there is 50% chance that El Nino may develop later in 2023. It is saying that it will develop much before than the later 2023, because the warmer than average sea surface temperature has already emerged in some parts of eastern tropical Pacific in recent weeks only. So moving ahead, the IMD, what IMD is going to say, the Indian Meteorological Department is scheduled to issue its first long range forecast to rainfall for the 2023 southwest monsoon on Tuesday. So on 11th April, the forecast of rainfall by IMD will be released. So this was about La Nina and El Nino and its some technicalities. Let's go ahead about its implications. Most global models are seeing the transition from ENSO neutral to El Nino happening this year, but that would probably affect the monsoon only in the second half, that is August September of the season. Will it translate into deficient rainfall after 4 surplus years? And by extension means its implication low or even negative agricultural growth? Question mark. Table 2 shows that the answer to this question lies in the consecutive following paragraphs. Table 2 shows that what is table 2? This is table 2. That practically all drought years in India since independence, marked by large declines in food grain production or monsoon failures, have witnessed what? El Nino events of varying intensity. So all the drought year was El Nino year. The sole exception was 1966 and 67. There was a drought, but it was not an El Nino. Although the year before that had recorded strong El Nino. In 65-66 there was a strong El Nino. 66-67 there was a drought, but it's not a El Nino. Right. What is El Nino? The technical term. To elaborate, mean SSTs have to be at least 0.5 degrees Celsius higher than average for a minimum of 5 overlapping 3-month periods to qualify as El Nino event. So they have to be at least 0.5 degrees Celsius higher than average for a minimum of 5 overlapping. So sea surface temperature should be more than 0.5 degrees of what? Normal average. Average of what? Minimum of 5 overlapping 3-month periods to qualify as El Nino. We should not get into this technical term because the UPSC will never going to ask this. The positive ONI values or SST deviation have to be 1.5 to 1.9 degrees for categorization as strong. As we have seen what a new index ONI, which is minus 0.4, right, for neutral phase. Below it minus 0.5, minus 0.6, it is La Nina, and positive ONI values represent what? El Nino, but it has to be 1.5 degrees to 1.9 degrees for becoming a strong El Nino. Above 2 degrees, very strong. 1 and 1.5 degrees for moderate, and zero point 0.5 to 0.9 degrees as for weak. Okay. While all drought years have invariably been El Nino years, all drought years have invariably been El Nino years, the reverse is not true. See here, India has had good monsoon from 2019-22, helped a prolonged La Nina event. This year could see an EI El Nino, while all drought years in India have been El Nino years. Not El Nino years have produced droughts. So this year will probably be a El Nino year, but that does not mean we would have we, we would have to face a drought. Table 3 gives what? A list of all the El Nino years that were not bad agriculture years. El Nino years that were not drought years in India. El Nino years, these were 51, 52, 53, 58, moderate, weak, but not at all drought years. And not a bad agriculture years. The best examples are 1982 and 1997. Food grain output fell only marginally in these two very strong El Nino years. 82 and 93 was strong, very strong El Nino years. See, but not. The food grain output fell only marginally in these two very strong El Nino years. Agriculture GDP growth was positive in the moderate El Nino event years of 51, 63, 68 and 94. So in some or in two strong El Nino years, 82 and 97, the output of the food grains fell marginally. Even in moderate El Nino years, 51, 63, 68, 94, the agriculture GDP is also positive, was positive. So to sum up this article, 23 could well end the run of good rainfall years since 2019. So 23 would be well end the run of good rainfall years since 2019. We are seeing from 2019 it was almost 3 or 4 La Nina years, but this would end in 2023, right? The statistical probability of that is high, whether or not there is an El Nino. The El Nino itself can turn out to be weak. So let's see how kind of El Nino would be: weak, strong, moderate, or very strong. In any way, that means either way, from policymakers to tractor companies that have posted all-time high sales in the past 4 years has to brace for a not too great monsoon this time, right? They will not have to. For them, this year would be not too great monsoon. In a year leading up to Lok Sabha election, this could present interesting political challenge as most of the voters are farmers. Majority, 60% of the people in India are dependent on primary sector for employment and income. So it would also affect 2024 general elections, right? So this was all about today: El Nino, La Nina and its implications. Okay, so thank you so much, friends, and enjoy, stay happy. Bye bye, signing off for the day. This is Tirth. Bye bye, good night.